Welcome to the Web Platform Podcast, a developer discussion that dives deep into all things web. We discuss topics relevant to developing for the modern web and the web platform of today, tomorrow, and beyond. The Web Platform Podcast is a proud O'Reilly Media partner. As such, one of the benefits we provide our listeners, that's you, are special discounts such as 50% off of ebooks and 40% off of printed materials. So this includes but is not limited to books on web technologies, as well as other technologies you may be using. So your discount code is all caps PCBW. That's PCBW, all in caps. So head over to O'Reilly.com, that's OREILLY.com, right now to get all your favorite tech books at much lower prices.
This is the Web Platform Podcast, episode number 71, Vaadin Elements, which I think I pronounced right, and I probably should have checked before I asked. I'm your host this week, Danny Blue. With us, as always, we have Justin Ribeiro.
Hello, wonderful people.
And then we have two very special guests, Jouni and Manolo. So if you guys just want to go around, introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit, who you are, what you do, what you like.
Sure, I can go ahead and take the first turn. So, my name is Jouni, and you got that name right.
I didn't even try the other one.
Yeah, that was okay as well. We like to say it as like Vaadin, but yeah. Anyway, so I'm a product manager here at Vaadin and responsible for the Vaadin Elements product, and been here working for user interfaces for like 10 years almost already.
That's a good stint.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess that's enough for now.
Okay, my turn. So I am Manolo. I work in Vaadin as well, and my position is a developer in the Elements team at Vaadin. I am a GUID expert, so some components are made with GUID, and also I know JavaScript as well, and yeah, that's my position in Vaadin.
Awesome. So, real quick, can you give us a little bit of background on what Vaadin does, and specifically what Vaadin Elements are?
Sure. So, as I said, I've been here for 10 years, but the company itself is like 15 years, and it's been always doing web interfaces, more or less. And we've had our own product for Java developers for building web apps for the entire history. And now we just kind of saw these web components as the future where the web interface development is going to be, I don't know, in a few years at least, and wanted to get on board with that as soon as possible and kind of broaden our user base at the same time. And Vaadin Elements is then our humble beginning with the web components side of things. So we've been a Java house for the 15 years, more or less. Of course, we have the web expertise, but it's been hidden behind the Java APIs before, and now we're just kind of opening up that side to all of our users.
That sounds fantastic. Always glad to see companies starting to move towards web components in general. Anybody that's listened to the show knows that we tend to be pretty big fans for all their pros and cons. So with that, is there a why that you can speak to of why the move to web components rather than something like, I don't know, just doing like jQuery plugins or something like that?
Yeah, there's no hidden agenda here, so we're free to speak as we see things. Like the big reasons, I would say the biggest reason is that we just want to broaden the user base and not limit our fine elements or web components to just Java developers. And I don't know, it's been like that for always, it seems, before web components, that you've had these huge frameworks kind of siloed with their own components. So you haven't had that interoperability really before. And now that it's becoming possible with web components, we just also want to be involved in that. Well, yeah, that's like I would say the biggest reason.
Yeah.
But we of course like to play with any new technologies that come into the web platform. So
Yeah,
it's just something new, fresh for us.
Yeah, no, and interop is crazy important and a really big pro of web components in general. So it is good to see. I said it before. It's good to see companies starting to move towards that way. So the way that I understand it, so Vaadin Elements are Polymer elements. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So why go with Polymer? Why go the full Polymer library route versus vanilla components or something smaller like Escape.js?
Yeah, that's a good question, or a fair question. There's no clear answer, I would say. It's more like it just felt the most mature at the time. So we started at the beginning of this year to play with Polymer more. We had prototypes of web components before that, but it just felt like we can move a lot faster when we just adopt Polymer as the underlying technology. So we don't have to write all that boilerplate ourselves, and we can benefit from the Polymer ecosystem, all the nice things that Google is offering there. And at least right now, it feels like the biggest ecosystem around web components.
I think most people would probably agree with that.
Yeah. So I think we've discussed options about like going vanilla or maybe using some more lightweight, less frameworky solution for that. But right now, I feel like it's the perfect fit for us, and that we get so much benefit of just using all those nice things that Polymer offers.
Yeah, and I mean, using Polymer as a base, I mean, obviously you get a lot of sugar on top. I mean, are you guys using a lot of that sugar for your initial sort of first wave of elements? I mean, what do you like about Polymer? I mean, I'm a big fan of the data binding myself, and of the fact that computer properties came back in 1.2. So,
Yeah.
But what you guys have? When did you guys start using Polymer? Were you guys in early days in the 0.5 branches? Did you go through the 0.9 RCs?
Yeah, we were on board like right around the corner of 0.8 transition. So we started with 0.5, and like pretty much right after that, everything went out of the window, and we had to redo some things, but it was all for the better. And yeah, we've been on board since that. And
sorry. So since you've been on board with it, I mean, you guys jumped right in. I mean, you guys went to the grid straight out of the gate. You guys didn't start light and go, we're going to make an input field. You guys went grid. I mean, why did you guys decide to go down the grid path?
Well, I don't know. I guess there's a few reasons, but one was maybe that if we can solve all the problems around the grid, then everything else will just follow. It'll kind of be easy from there on.
I think you guys just making it hard on yourselves.
Yeah, the flip side of that is, of course, that we're making it really hard for us to get started. But since we had the grid, it's actually not a brand new component in itself. So as Manolo said, it's actually built using GWT, so formerly Google Web Toolkit, underneath. And we had that component ready already since last year. Not completely polished, but quite ready to go. And we just wanted to provide a web component API for that. So we didn't start from scratch with the full grid. And because of that, we felt like if we start with the grid, it's going to be kind of such a huge component that it provides a lot of value to many users. So it's a good kind of a gateway drug, sort of, to Vaadin Elements.
That's a big one for a lot of companies, right? Like to kind of prove, like, see, we know what we're doing. Excuse me. Like I think Kendo UI, like one of their big things is their grid and things like that.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see the case why you would want to try to tackle that first. Almost just get it out of the way, saying like, see, yes, we can do it. Here it is. Very nice.
Sorry. The thing is that at the beginning we had a big challenge trying to make everything work together. So at the beginning we had a grid made in Java, and we started to offer the JS interop for exporting things easily to the JavaScript community or ecosystem. And also Polymer was in the beginning of its history, and we wanted to join every piece in one thing, and it's kind of playing with different things, and at the end see everything working, right? So it
kind of started as an experiment, and is this actually possible to do? And then we just saw the opportunity that we should do this.
And you guys have been in the enterprise game for a long time. I mean, it's a lot of web developers may not know about Gwt these days, but it's been around for a while. And obviously, in the enterprise, grids are kind of a thing, right? We use grids a lot of the time. It seems like a logical start point for someone who's been in the grid business for a long time.
Yeah. It was one of the components that we had. Like, we had a table in the core framework, which was overdue for a rewrite. So that's where we kind of made the new grid. Started 1 or 2 years ago. Started building that. So it's been a long journey with that already.
So
did you run into any initial sort of headaches with the sort of standards and specifications that are, around web components that sort of make web components go in today's browsers?
You mean in the integration of the existing thing, or just overall in web components?
Yeah, I mean, it's always curious to me. I mean, grids are, everyone sort of has an approach to grids, right? How you bind data in them, how you sort of deal with a multitude of rows. If I've got a 10,000 row grid, performance can be quite bad. I mean, how did you guys sort of approach those problems when it came to either the web component side or even, even just dealing with it on the web?
Well, for dealing it on the web is that was also like a heavy research phase in the beginning, like building this what we call the escalator for handling those tens of thousands of rows, like performantly in the browser. And like reusing DOM elements, just showing the rows that are actually in the viewport, stuff like that, making it accessible for like screen readers. When you actually shuffle those rows, like reuse them, they end up in the wrong order in the DOM, except like versus the actual visual order on the page. So then we reshuffle them back once you stop scrolling, so screen readers can still read those in the correct order. All this kind of stuff had to be done beforehand, and it took a lot of time, like being performant on mobile devices. There were tons of different things that we stumbled on. I bet I wasn't part of the initial project when they built the grid, and for the web component side, I would say it was such a new thing for the company and most of us working here. So tackling all those like data binding and how to build a JavaScript or web component API was one of the big things that we had to solve.
So you mentioned earlier that you guys kind of got on board at the beginning, or close to the beginning. So like 0.5 to 0.8 to 1.0. What was the most challenging part about upgrading from those older, especially the 0.5 branch, all the way up to where we're at now in the in the 1.x phase? What was the biggest challenge moving from one to the other?
Well, actually, what we did is start from scratch in point 8. So every prototype we had at the beginning, almost we redo everything with the new version, and then from the point 8 to 1, it was more smoothly. But yeah, the first prototype were very different to the current code. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of offered a good point of just redoing it, maybe rethinking some things. And I wasn't, as I'm not directly part of the dev team, I can't remember specifics. What would have been the most difficult things to change?
Okay.
It doesn't feel to me like looking back that it was such a big thing.
I'm always curious to hear how people handle things like that when there's some kind of a significant upgrade, because around 0.5, and Justin, tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like around 0.5 is where it really started to gain traction in the community, and then you get more and more people using it, and then with the big rewrites, a lot of people had to go through this. So I'm always curious how people handled it.
Really like interesting, or even great to see the community effort when the transition happened. There wasn't that much documentation maybe, but a lot of people helping people, like describing how things work, and it was nice to see that as well.
Cool. All right. So I don't want to hog too much of the mic, but Justin mentioned enterprise grade, or enterprise, which is something that your company has been known for. What does it mean to say that you are creating enterprise grade components?
There's a few things around that. I don't know if the term is the most descriptive or I don't know, easiest to market, but we feel like it describes the things that we were after. So one thing would be that we really stress the quality of the components. Like we do a lot of testing, user testing, and spend much time designing the elements. And the quality, and then on top of that, we also have support for our components. So it's not something your cousin whipped up in an afternoon or during a weekend and then never maintains or upgrades. So that's kind of the bigger promise of our elements, that we actually support those. We have backwards compatibility promises, etc. And the final thing would be the kind of business aspect, that since we have been doing a lot of applications for enterprises and businesses in general, we think we have knowledge what those businesses want and need from UI components. So we want to cater those more instead of just maybe consumer apps. So
So around that idea, about this idea of sort of the business side of things, I mean, sometimes enterprise is somewhat synonymous with, we are stuck with IE version, who cares, it's always bad, sort of thing. And web components with older versions of IE can be troublesome. Are web components for the enterprise ready?
Yeah. In that sense, we're not maybe catering for those enterprises with this offering. So for that, we have our older stuff, like the old framework that they can use for IE6 or something. And I guess it's
IE6.
also.
I haven't even heard anybody mention a browser that old in a while.
Yeah, well, it's like not our latest framework version, but the version before that actually supports IE6 still, and we have support for that framework version still. But anyway, making the like division between consumer and web, business type of apps can be quite tricky also. So it's I don't know, it's a bit of some sort of indication what type of elements we want to build.
Which brings me to my next question. What else do you guys have in the pipe in terms of elements? I mean, right now, you guys sort of came out firing with a grid, which is,
yeah.
Which I think is absolutely amazing, by the way, because I think
Thank
grids
you.
are hard. So
I have many stories to tell, yes.
But yeah, what's next on your mystical roadmap of things? I mean, what other web components, are you guys working on that, sort of help alleviate some of this strain that's sort of in the enterprise and in the business side of things?
Yeah, well, mostly it's about big sets of data, and a grid is like a natural thing for that. And the next thing that we're currently building is a combo box, which is also about huge set of items that you need to filter out. So that's one thing that we're trying to finish up by the end of the year, actually, the first version of that. At the same time as we try to finish up the final version of the grid.
And you guys are working on these in the open, correct? You guys are working on these on GitHub.
Totally.
So if people have pull requests out there, pull requests.
Patch is welcome, the usual phrase goes. Currently I don't think we have a proper roadmap visible, like very clearly anywhere. It's on my to-do. I should add that somewhere. But yeah, you can find us on GitHub. So GitHub/Vaadin and /Vaadin-Elements. That's the main repository. After the combo box, we have designed a new date picker, which we would like to build, but I heard some rumors about the Polymer team providing those as well. So it's a bit under consideration how we want to proceed with that, if we want to kind of duplicate efforts there.
Another big thing in a lot of these like enterprise widget frameworks are charts and things like that. Do you guys have plans to try to dig into any of that stuff?
Well, thanks for asking. We actually do. So that's the other thing that we've been working on during this year already. So providing web components API for our charting library, Vaadin Charts, which actually builds on top of pie charts. And it's already in alpha stage. It should be quite soon in beta. Can't remember the actual dates or anything, but it's also available in GitHub for if you want to test that out. So yeah, we definitely have a full-fledged charting library, which is also something very enterprisey.
Yeah. So with that, we're talking about like the things that you're actively building. What is the design and development process like for these? I mean, you guys have been doing this for a long time, not just with web components, but designing componentized pieces for other stuff. You're talking about stuff with Java earlier. But so is the process any different from going from say like that Java world to web components on the front end?
Well, at least for us, it's now a little different, but I would not say it's because of web components. It's just maybe that we're matured during the years, how we approach the design of these. Like previously, it has been a lot more ad hoc, how we've added new components to the framework. But now we try to approach them more systematically, actually interviewing our own developers and customers, seeing what has been built, what has been the problems. They have to invent workarounds using our current components and trying to find improvement ideas there. And from there on, it just goes to the design phase. We sketch things out, write scenarios, build some prototypes, maybe different variations. Maybe do some user testing on those already, or build some functional prototypes and then user test those. And there's a lot of design and testing going on initially.
So do you guys have a dedicated design team that just focuses on one thing, or does everybody kind of do everything?
We have like a UX design group inside in the house, but they're mostly working on customer projects, just designing like customer applications. But luckily for our Elements team, we actually have a dedicated designer in our team, so that's a big bonus for our team.
No,
So
that's
he's and I actually have a background in design, so my other title at the company actually is a design director. So we have like a double team of designers in this team handling these design issues.
Awesome. So we mentioned before, talked about enterprise, and one of the ways you defined that was a big focus on quality. All right.
Yes.
So how do you go about testing your elements? And you also mentioned that they are very well tested. What is your what is your all's testing process for this? Like, do you do any kind of unit testing on the elements, as well as like more end-to-end stuff? What tools do you use? What processes do you have in place to ensure that you are putting out these really high quality pieces?
Yeah, well, I guess I can take this as well. So we do basic unit testing with currently with using Web Component Tester, the kind of standard stuff for Polymer Elements, and we already had almost like a visual regression testing added to the project, but we didn't go ahead with that yet, since there were a lot of like visual changes still coming to the grid. So we're going to start that at some point, like doing screenshot comparison testing, so we don't accidentally break any styling during development. And then on top of that, as I said, we do the user testing. So whenever we have something implemented, ready, some new API, some new end user functionality, we run that through our user testing process, which usually involves at least five different people doing a set of tasks for that particular feature or component. And well, depending on the results, then we might do some changes.
Okay. So how does, and this is something that I haven't done much unit testing with web components themselves. How does writing unit tests for a component differ from writing a unit test for, say, just a function that you have? Like, are you just testing the API? Like, are you actually checking to make sure that the correct DOM is being put in place? Like, what? How do you go about deciding? Okay, how do you go about writing a test that actually tests something in a web component?
Maybe Manolo wants to take this.
Yeah, actually, when we have a new feature to implement or some fix to do, what we try to do is to define the test for testing that feature. So basically, we are testing any single API functionality, as well as we have to test that all the attributes are set because in web components it's important that all the properties are correctly set in attributes, as well as any user interaction, like clicking on a button or whatever. So we try to cover almost the functionality with testing, but we are not doing visual comparisons right now, but using real browsers. So what we do is run our test in all possible devices from the beginning, so as any new feature is tested in all the devices we are targeting.
Yeah, we're using Source Labs currently for that. So
exactly.
We're running tests there, all the unit tests, and I think we're using is it Mocha? Also on top of like the basic web component tester. I think that's kind of standard also there with web component tester, and Sinon also. Okay. So it's, I don't know, we try to test as much as we can, and unit test is like the starting point for that. And we try to also test the, like Manolo said, the user interactions, and not just the like manipulating it through the API.
Okay.
So it's kind of a end-to-end testing in that sense.
Yeah, now that's what I was going to say. It kind of sounds like you're doing some of that end-to-end testing as well. So, again, the unit testing part is something I'm always curious about because it's a little bit different than... And I have the same questions about even things like React and how you test a component versus if you're just testing, like a few JavaScript functions where it's pretty straightforward. How would you approach it? So, excuse me, I have to collect my thoughts. So that shows like a lot of your, like I said, going through. So it sounds like you're trying to define your tests first to make sure that you get a lot of this stuff done. How does the rest of the dev process work? I mean, in terms of tooling and things like that, because everybody knows you can't write front end code. You can't write front end code anymore without some sort of tooling or some sort of build process in there. So what are you guys doing to get your stuff shipped?
Yeah, for like basic dev process, we're following Scrum currently. So we have sprints and some definitions before the sprint and that. But I guess Manolo can cover like our tooling, what we actually use day to day for development.
Yeah, basically. First, the first interaction in a feature is that the designer shows some mockups. Also, the product owner gives us some new ideas, or how the new feature should be. And then what we do in our meetings is try to write correct cards for those features, and maybe if we need some research, we create new cards in the backlog for the next sprint for researching stuff like accessibility or whatever we need to research. And then we try to write cards with everything set, even what parts of the feature should be tested, or also we design the JavaScript API interaction with the developer or whatever. And until we have the correct card well written, we don't estimate the effort for that card. And at the end, we pick up some cards from the next sprint and we develop them. But we have a lot of meetings trying to figuring out the
correct things that we need to do. But yeah, for like doing the development, like our tool chain consists of pretty basic, I would say, kind of standard Polymer tool chain. We use Gulp for some build processes, and of course we need to use Git to compile the grid itself. And we then use GitHub, just mostly for our issues, and actually use Waffle.io on top of that, which is a really great product for doing Scrum backlogs. So if do you guys know Waffle?
No, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, so it's like if you know Trello, and Waffle is like Trello for GitHub.
Okay.
More or less. It sort of does quite well up until this point, since we have like a lot of projects in GitHub that we just want to track on one board. So that's been really helpful. And thanks for actually Taylor Savage, the Polymer product manager, for like hinting that for us, that it can actually work in this kind of situation. And Yeah,
you know,
go
you're
ahead.
just talking about the tool chain. I mean, you guys have been on the web for a long time. I mean, just in terms of, you know, the way that you guys started out building stuff for Gwit, and obviously it's still a major sort of thing that you guys are doing, obviously, and you know, sort of. You've been there through the web change, and I mean, how has the web changed for you guys? I mean, obviously the tooling's changed, and you know, have all of these sort of, you know, like what has that been like? If you've seen this sort of thing progress over time?
It's like quite hilarious actually looking back. When I started here, doing some JavaScript development for like a spell checking company, trying to do like dynamic spell checking or live spell checking, you know, in a text area, and trying to debug that in like IE 5.5 or IE 6 using something. And believe me or not, it was actually like Windows, I don't know, Microsoft debugger or something. Can't even remember the name, but it was actually the best JavaScript debugger at the time, shipped by Microsoft. And yeah, since then, a lot has gone like better, and using Chrome today is just like a bliss compared to that. And well, Gwit, it was like around 2005 or something when Gwit started being around, and we weren't like the early adopters of Gwit, I think, but fairly early on. And it was also kind of relief to use that back then, when we started to grow as a company and had to be able to like push out code that could be handled by a larger team and understood by like just a Java developer and not just JavaScript developers. And it was.
And I mean, how are you finding mixing those two together now? Because obviously you still have both. Now you've got web components and you've got sort of legacy. I mean, that must be quite a battle, sort of, you know, trying to mash those together to, you know, sort of create this, you know, happy sort of environment for people who are like, I can't use web components because I'm stuck here, and what are you going to do? And that must be, you know, that must be quite a challenge.
Yeah. Somehow we've solved most of those problems, and I guess the one issue is that we're kind of dependent on the current core framework in the sense that we're using the same component as is shipping in the Vaadin framework. So we have a tight coupling with the two products there. So we have to handle that like on a company level or team level. We need to communicate a lot with the teams how we want stuff to work, and since they have to support like IE8 and we don't actually with these web components, so that creates some problems also, that whatever we want to like contribute to the core grid needs to work on IE8 as well, and not just IE11, which is what Vaadin Elements support. And I don't know, just tying Gwit and Polymer together. Maybe Manolo wants to say something about that, but
yeah, the thing with Gwit and JavaScript nowadays is that Gwit is evolutionating, and we are going to release Gwit 2.8, which is fully integrated with JavaScript, so you can write code and export Java code directly to JavaScript and use it from JavaScript and vice versa. So you can directly use JavaScript stuff without doing so much. So basically, the evolution of Gwit is kind of like TypeScript. So as you have a high-level language for using JavaScript and more integrated with all the stuff written in JavaScript. So we have taken advantage of this movement of Gwit, and it has been easier to use the Gwit from Polymer, right? So yeah, it seems that everything goes to JavaScript, and all the all the frameworks are aligning with JavaScript. So Wit is another framework which is moving to JavaScript as well. Yeah.
And so with everything moving to JavaScript, and you talked about, IE, some stuff, a lot of enterprise, bigger companies having to support back to IE8. What has the reception been like for some of these? I know you're still churning, still working through it, but what has the reception been like? Because I work for a large company, so I know the pains of some of that support stuff. So how are people receiving some of these elements, and how are they receiving just the idea of web components in general in their large enterprise solutions?
Well, I haven't heard that much feedback about exactly that. We were at HTML5 DevConf in San Francisco a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago. Well, the reception there among developers about web components was, without a doubt, positive. Everyone's really excited about those, and I guess that's understandable among developers. We're just happy to just support the new stuff. And well, for customer projects inside Vaadin, there are projects that just need to support Chrome, for instance. So I would expect web components to work for many companies even. And I would expect the IE8 support to decline quite dramatically over maybe next year already. New projects don't need to really support those anymore.
We can only hope.
Yes.
I feel like this is the time where we also fight about Shadow DOM again. Is this the part of the show we should...
Ooh, all right, sorry. I like it. No, we're fine. So Justin does bring up a good point. And so you guys have been working with web components. And one of the things in Polymer, so there's the shady DOM, and then there's the Shadow DOM spec in general. I am personally of the mind that Shadow DOM isn't necessary. It feels kind of like an extra layer of something that I don't necessarily want right now, and that could just be my total ignorance on it. But so both of you, what do you think about? And I honestly, Justin, can't believe we haven't talked about it already. But what do you think about that particular part of the web component spec about Shadow DOM? Are you for it, or are you against it, or do you not know yet?
Well, as a former CSS developer and a theme specialist among the Vaadin team, I would say I would have liked Shadow DOM very much back then when we were theming stuff, which would have avoided a lot of troublesome design decisions or workarounds that we had to do for our previous components in the framework, trying to shield us from some stuff like what other, for instance, LifeRay, which we embed our Vaadin portlets into. They leak styles into our elements or components, and we need to try to fight those with more specific selectors or something. So I would have wanted Shadow DOM back then. But right now, I would say it's something that we eventually want. But right now, it's looking like we can cope still without it. At least in Happy Polymer land, where they provide the style scoping polyfill or shim, which kind of avoids many of these issues also. But I would say I'm pro Shadow DOM.
Yeah.
All right.
I too am pro Shadow DOM. So.
All right. I'm losing. It's 2-1.
I guess it's up to Manolo.
Yeah. All right, come on, Manolo.
Yeah.
You for it or against it?
I don't think Shadow DOM is going to succeed.
Haha! 2 versus 2. Straight down the middle.
Yeah. So it's a nice thing when you start looking at it, but then it's very complicated to make things work. So if web components were always isolated from the page, Shadow DOM is okay. But normally people wants to to style web components and to manipulate web components with CSS and Shadow DOM is difficult for doing that. So, and also the movement seems that other vendors apart from Chrome are not going to implement Shadow DOM. So,
well, actually, WebKit just shipped some Shadow DOM version in there nightly, at least.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Okay. Let's see.
Okay, you're back to like being on the verge.
It's I know at least from my perspective right now, it feels like Shadow DOM is holding us back from web. It feels like Shadow DOM is holding us back from web components for a large part of it.
It's the biggest divider currently.
Yeah. Well, it's the most complicated part. It is the biggest, potentially most impactful part. So it's so of course you're going to get differing opinions on it, but
yeah, it's easy to see both ways.
Yeah, but thank you, Justin, for bringing that up. We can't go too long without arguing about Shadow DOM. Our listeners have come to expect it.
Yeah, I just, it's a topic of interest, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yes, following closely on it. Yes.
Which we will, we'll know the answer in a decade or so. Of course, we might not, because they might still be implementing it in a decade. So who knows?
Looking at you,
Hey, Edge. Like I will say, I just upgraded my home computer to 10, and I'm using Edge. Edge is excellent. I don't know if you guys have been using it. It's really good. I am really happy and surprised.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Yeah, it's something that we test on, also. And yeah, now that you mention, IE actually is never going to implement Shadow DOM. Yeah. That's why they're going to do it just for Edge.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, sounds like we're approaching a stopping point. So So go back around. Tell us, again, tell us your name. Tell us your Twitter handle, where they can find you on GitHub. If people if they're interested in using Vaadin Elements, if they're interested in contributing to Vaadin Elements, tell us all that stuff.
Sure. So my name is Jouni. I'm going to even pronounce my last name for you, so you get that on tape. Koivuviita. So you can try that at home.
Oh my God, I'm glad I didn't try that.
In front of the mirror. Yeah. And so Vaadin Elements, so go to vaadin.com/elements. That's where you find all the relevant information. So awesome web components for your mostly business-oriented apps, I would say. But, if you want to use those for consumer apps, go ahead. It's the free web. It's all good. And, I would say we have the best grid on the market currently, at least for web component people. And, looking forward to the next elements that we're going to show you guys, coming up with the combo box and possibly the date picker after that. So go ahead on GitHub, give us your feedback, send issues, comments. We have a Gitter chat. You can find the link to that on GitHub as well. And just come say hi. Ask me tough questions or something.
I'm Manolo, and I had to add to Jouni that we, apart from the Vaadin Elements, we have produced as well in the Elements team something for wrapping web components from Git, so Git developers can try with API generator and with Polymer elements.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So you can go to Vaadin, github.com/Vaadin, and you have a lot of projects there related with web components. So try them.
Vaadin.com/GWT would be kind of the starting point for with Polymer elements. So we actually had a project that, turns out Java APIs for all the nice Polymer web components. So we did that as well. Yes, and you mentioned something about a Twitter handle. So you can find me on Twitter at Jouni, just Jouni.
Yeah,
and on GitHub, I'm Jouni K.
Okay, my handle in Twitter is Dodotis, and in GitHub is Manolo.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys very, very much. I always love talking about web components. So it's, again, always good to see people actually using them, like really trying to push this thing forward. So thank you very much again.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah. And so this has been episode 71, Vaadin Elements. As always, I'm Danny Blue.
And I'm Justin Ribeiro.
And we will talk to everybody next week.
Call for proposals is done and registration is open. And O'Reilly Fluent Conf is back in just a few months. Fluent, the web platform conference, will be held in San Francisco, California on March 7th through 10th, 2016. So get practical training in JavaScript, HTML5, CSS, and the latest web development technologies and frameworks. The Web Platform Podcast listeners receive a 20% discount when registering for the conference. So make sure you use the promotional code PCWPP20 to receive your discount. You want to learn more about what's coming on next on the Web Platform Podcast? Follow us on Twitter at @thewebplatform or on Google Plus and YouTube at +thewebplatform. We also need your help in creating transcripts of the episodes and helping to create open source projects under our GitHub organization. Contact Eric Isaacson at eIsaacson
or Danny Blue at D_Blue. That's DEE_BLOO.
Thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you all next week.